On this episode of AV Week, more standards and alliances show up for AV over IP, micro LED and OLED developments, and the importance of digital signage during COVID-19. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 480, recorded Friday, October 30th, 2020. No more standard.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Extron, industry-leading technology backed by world-class support.
And by
Peerless AV, driving technology through innovation.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, Kate Calderon from Bogan. Welcome, ma'am.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Just on the other side of the state for me and my new favorite blues fan, Erica Williams. Welcome, ma'am.
Hello.
My least favorite Boston Bruins fan, or just Boston fan in general, Craig McCormick. How are you, sir?
With a rousing endorsement like that, how can I not be good?
Are you a Tampa fan, by the way, yet? Are you a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. If you don't know, Tom Brady, the only reason that the Patriots have any sort of, legacy is now playing for Tampa. So, and last but not least, a fellow Bears fan, but also unfortunately a Cubs fan, Mr. Brad Grimes. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, Tim. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Now that we've gotten all the sports stuff out of the way, I'm just excited that freaking football's going, and the Bears have only lost 2 games. How many of the Patriots lost?
I can't count that high.
Yeah, that's typically for Chicago. So, all right. First story actually comes to us from Mr. Craig McCormick and commercial integrator. How digital signage has grown in importance because of COVID-19. We're talking about this for a couple of different reasons, honestly. Number one, not for nothing, but AVIXA has partnered with the DSF, the Digital Signage Federation. You listened a couple of weeks ago, and actually to this month's Digital Signage Digest, the DSC, the Digital Signage Expo, has folded. The AVNation, the company that ran that, has filed for bankruptcy. You can check all that out in various shows. You can check that out on Craig's site as well. So digital signage is, I'm not going to say they don't have a home right now, but there's several folks that are out there trying to create content. AVIXA is doing an event, a virtual event in December. We're partnering with Future on an event we're doing in March. Craig and his team are doing their virtual event in November.
December.
In December.
Yep.
So the Total Tech Summit, which would have been in person, is virtual now. So lots of folks are trying to serve this community, which has been robust, right? It has been out there. But Craig, when we start looking at digital signage and how it's able to help not only integrators, but also the retail establishments and the folks that are trying to get people back into the spaces, what are you finding as far as ways that the signage community and the not only the hardware, but also the creatives can help during this crisis?
I think one of the biggest changes that we've seen is in a lot of ways digital signage for a long time was pretty passive. I mean, you saw it and you noticed it, and obviously it caught your attention, but it wasn't necessarily always there to give you information. It was more there to attract your attention and maybe catch your eye on a sale or something like that. And now it's changed quite a bit, as most things have these days in the last 8 months or so. I think it's more about providing information and giving people, updates on what is actually going on within a building, or at a school, or in an office building, or something like that. It's telling people, it's safe to come in here, or you need to do this to make sure that you're safe. That sort of thing. So I think that's kind of been the biggest change and the biggest way that it's different now.
Kate, one of the areas that Craig points out is ways to entice people to come back in, right? Whether that's a rewards program, it's a frequent buyer program, or a frequent attendee program. When it comes to connecting with clients and with customers, What are some of the ways that you're seeing that digital signage is able to do that, to kind of entice people back in?
To entice people back in, I'm seeing it more as a communication side of everything. That's how I personally have been seeing it, mostly with public communication. Like, we were just in Chicago last weekend, and it's been 5 years since I've been in Chicago, and I was driving around the downtown area at night and commented, dang, look at all this digital signage that's here now. I don't remember it ever being quite at this capacity than it was just a few years ago, even used, in the bus stops even, and just multiple signs everywhere. And I saw, obviously, thanks to COVID, they're using it, for communication and reminders as social distancing. And then also a lot of stores as reminders, because a lot of things have been locked down and boarded up. But retailers are also trying to get customers in by telling them exactly which direction to go into the store. Because again, a lot of things are boarded up and not open like they used to be. And they were having different ways to enter into stores. So personally, I've been seeing it more as used as directional for digital signage too.
All right. Brad, from your perspective and your vantage point, what are you saying that the biggest use case, I guess, for signage out there, whether it's indoor signage or outdoor signage during COVID?
I mean, well, use cases will change. I mean, obviously, the message you communicate is relevant to the time you're in and the circumstances you're in. What I'm seeing, or what I think is important, is more the technology and the design now, right? Because when you create digital signage in an indoor space, it needs to be able to communicate its message safely. And that's not just, I mean, you need to have a sign that's viewable from multiple angles, because you need people, you don't want everybody gathering right in front of your screen to see your message, because that defeats the social distancing purposes. So you need to start looking in terms of the size of your messaging, the size of your digital signage, the technology that you, I mean, there's a lot of direct view LED now coming that's usable indoors, that's bright under a lot of circumstances, that can be viewed from distance. The last thing you want is digital signage where everyone has to get up, right near it in order to get the message. So, messages, communications, whatever you're trying to get across will change over time. Communicating is a core use case that will last well beyond COVID. But in the short term, you really do need to think about the design of a digital signage platform to ensure that it does its job safely.
Eric, I want to take a little bit different approach to this. We are watching a number of applications and solutions during COVID-19. I'm not going to say put on rose-colored glasses here. Yes, it's a pandemic, and yes, it's serious. However, this is not going to last forever. At least I don't believe it is. So let's at least be somewhat optimistic here. What are ways that we can help our clients and help the customers leverage what they may be putting in place today for COVID-19, and for a very good reason, but also to make sure that that's available and that can be reused, I guess, or repurposed once this pandemic is over, for whether that's other digital signage or other communications tools, to make sure that when we design these systems, it's not just for COVID, but it can be used and leveraged for further down the road.
I think one of the big things that you're going to see is an approach from convenience. During this COVID time, things are changing quickly, rules are changing quickly, and it's only going to be a matter of time before, they change it. Oh, you're not supposed to be 6 feet apart. You can be, X amount of feet apart. And teams are going to start to realize that the printing off the paper, the laminating it, the posting it, and all that stuff is going to be more repetitious, and it's going to get old really quick. And going with the digital signage type system, you just got to update a single letter on a graphic and throw it back up there. So the convenience is going to be really good, and they're going to see that, oh, wow, well, this is really easy to use. And, we're going to start having people come back in, and, we can throw up together a graphic really quick and then it's up there, or we'd have a new announcement to make, and they're going to see that convenience and the ease of use. And that's going to make them want to commit to it. And it's on us to show them that, yeah, this system really is this easy. And, as we, I don't want to say simplify things more, but as we go more over the network, it's, running a patch cable to get that going. And it's overall convenience and ease of use. I guess you can come back to.
Yeah, absolutely. And it again gives them the opportunity to repurpose it. And I like that the whole, let's run a patch cable to it and let's get it going. Speaking of patch cables and cables in general, the OCA Alliance is a nonprofit trade association designed to promote and support the AES 70 standard for open control architecture, or OCA. They have launched a new learning resource center. And if you're not familiar with OCA, it is another AV over IP standard body, I guess is the best way to put that. Kate, when it comes to AV over IP in general, and there are a number of flavors of AV over IP, a number of solutions, how important is it for groups like this to have, not just education resources, but the ability to get out to their, not just members, but also engineers and technicians to let them understand exactly how this specific version of AV over IP differs from maybe a competing one?
I think it's really important. It's interesting because I had an hour-long conversation with two members of our engineering team here this morning, trying to understand exactly, how this works with our systems and how this impacts the industry as a whole. And while it technology-wise, it's a little bit over my head and learning how all of this works together and everything fits together. I think it's really important to have these types of organizations in place to make sure that no matter what manufacturer necessarily is being installed, that it's something universal that everyone is easily able to use. At the same time, one of the engineers' comments when I was talking about this was, you don't want to have too many of these in place, because then it starts creating, what did he call it, a walled garden. So all of them, you can, get into some boundaries and have to figure out how to work with different standards when there's multiple standards trying to work together in the same system.
Yeah, Mr. Grimes, you're sitting there shaking your head, so I'll just let you go off and continue this conversation. You're shaking your head about having too many of these and creating a walled garden. Like Kate said, she's not wrong. It is very possible to do that.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with Kate. It continues to be one of the challenges that this industry faces is so many standards. I mean, so many different ways that you can accomplish AV over IP or any other thing. I mean, it's great that we continue to develop these technologies, and but at the end of the day, yeah, you have to chuckle sometimes at all the different ways that you can do something standard. And that will always that will always be a challenge. And the IT industry, which does standards, somewhat differently, looks and says, we've got these 5 different standards and 5 ways of doing AV over this IP network. Call us when you can figure it out, kind of thing. But the technology is great. Clearly, a site like this needs to exist because I need to go on it and figure out what it means and how it plays with the other ones. But Kate's right, and her engineers are right. There are a lot of these things out there, and we continue to try to figure out what is the one best way to do this for us and for the IT industry that expects us to deliver.
Yeah. All right, Erica, is there one best way to do that? Or do we, I almost asked you, do we need another one, right? Do we need another standard? Because Brad's right. I mean, there are the old joke, and it is an old joke, is the best thing about AV standards is that there are so many to choose from. So,
to it.
Yeah, it's not even my joke, right? I heard it, good Lord, probably 20 years ago now. So do we need another one? I mean, and when a new one comes along like this, how much energy and how much effort should we put into learning about it?
That's a really good question. I like to keep things simple. I don't like to put a lot of options on the table. I don't like people to give me a lot of options. So I'm going to say no more standards. The only exception to that maybe would be to merge some together and, everybody to start playing together more nicely and everybody getting along, because, like Brad said, it also affects the communication with the IT side and influences those decisions made there. And if you start throwing out a whole bunch of stuff, then there's just going to cause more tension. And I think it's good for resources to exist, obviously, because you have to be able to look it up. You have to know what you're getting yourself into. You have to know if, the manufacturers need to know, I need to make this play here. I need to make this play here. And so it should exist, but we should just stay where we're at right now.
All right. Mr. McCormick, I beat you on your joke there, so I'll give you the last word on this story. When you look at stuff like this, I guess the same kind of question is how much energy should those of us who cover the industry give to new standards? And granted, this is more control and monitoring this specific standard, but it is looking at AV and the control over the IP and over the IT network.
Yeah, there's obviously something to be said for competition in the AV industry among manufacturers and having different products that maybe do the same things and letting people choose them. But when it comes to groups like this, I don't understand why there needs to be so many of them and why they can't figure out a way to work together and have one standard rather than 5 standards or whatever the number becomes, because I think in some ways it's self-defeating. It gets confusing and people maybe don't know which direction to go and maybe figure out another way to solve their problem.
Absolutely. All right. Last story here comes to us from our friends over at AV Magazine. Last story and a half, because I'm going to mention something about OLED that my buddy Dawn Mead and I kind of geeked out over, but this is sort of kind of in that realm. One of the neatest things to come out of Infocom Connected for me personally was a company called GLAAM Media Glass, GLAAM Media Glass, and they've got their first installation here. And what GLAAM is it is a piece of media glass. It's a piece of weatherproof glass with built-in micro LEDs. If you follow the link here, it'll take you to AV Magazine and show you some installations of it. But they are now, coming to the U.S. They've got their first. They got their first 2 installations. And Brad, I want to start with you on this. We've kind of talked about digital signage. This is kind of a version of that, but also a competitor to projection mapping onto buildings, where you are building structures based out of glass with built-in technology. So you start looking at installations like this. What are some of the opportunities, I guess is the best way to ask this, for folks that are trying to create unique experiences, not just during COVID, but also as we're moving out of it?
Well, I suspect there are a lot of opportunities, and the reason that technology is like this is so great is that it is another tool in the designer's toolbox. To me, I've always talked about AV technology and technologies as the modeling clays, the paintbrushes in a designer's kit. Because the more they have, the more the options they have to present a solution or an experience to the end user. This could clearly, I see lobby installations, and I see external walls. I see showcase spaces using things like this. But really, the AV industry is great at taking these materials and coming up with unique installations based on what they're hearing a customer tell them. And every customer story is really discrete and different. And when AV designers, consultants, integrators sit down with them and they hear these things, they can get really creative. And it may not always be a micro LED glass wall. It might be projection mapping. It might. But the fact of the matter is that we're in this great spot right now with technology. There's so much cool stuff out there that it really allows this industry to shine, because they can bring it to bear in a number of different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Erica, you look at events or equipment like this, you look at materials like this. What are some of the first things that spring to your mind, both from a positive standpoint, but also from an engineering challenging standpoint?
Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is what happens if it breaks. How specialized is the person going to have to be to fix it? How much is that going to cost me? What's the durability of it? How long does it last? Is it going to burn up in the sunlight? Which direction do I need to have it facing? That all of those kinds of things are, we've had a couple TVs sitting in a window down in Manhattan. As you walk by, you can see our digital signage slideshow, but it just cooks. And so I'd be curious to see what the details of the technology on this and how well it would really last. But that's a dream. But overall, I think it's awesome. I think it's super cool. I think it's going to, no matter where we go from here, I hate the term new normal. I don't want to say that, but where we go from here, things are going to be different. And the application of something like this in sports or multi-purpose entertainment areas, and being able to utilize that outdoor space because you can't have so many people inside, it's going to be a game changer in those places. So I think it's going to bring a lot to the people, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. McCormick, when you start looking at events like or products like this, what are some of the things that you're looking at and correlating it to for your readers as where's areas that they can put it into as soon as they get their hands on it?
I think it's kind of one of those things that even ANC and GLAAM probably don't even know the possibilities for this. Brad kind of touched on it, the idea of the customers are going to be the ones that kind of shape the direction of where it goes. I mean, who thought the digital signage would turn into what it's become and become, as present as it is in all these places that we never really thought about when digital signage first came out? Who thought that about projection mapping? I mean, look at all the places that there's projection. So I think this is kind of the same sort of thing. We really have no idea where it's going to go, and I think that's kind of the most exciting part of it.
Yeah, this is a longer conversation than we have here, but there's also a move within the digital signage community to stop even calling it digital signage, right? To move beyond that phrase because they feel like it constrains it to a 16 by 9 square rectangle, 16 by 9 rectangle. All right, Kate, you'll have the last word on this. Whether it's embedded glass or it is projection mapping on water like we saw during ISC a couple of years ago. When you look at stuff like this, and you start talking with clients, or in your cases, dealers, what are some of the things that come into mind as possibilities here?
I feel like the possibilities are endless. I mean, there really is. We're seeing technology move so fast right now. It'll be exciting to see the different types of projection mapping and digital signage. It'll be exciting to see where it goes from here. I think the user applications are obviously going to be changing as our new normal, I hate that term too, happens. But I think this is just the beginning. After they work out, the small kinks of how it's going to be working, and the replacement of the glass and all that. That was the first thing that I thought too. Was, it said 100,000 hours, and I'm not that great at math, but if it's on high for 12 hours a day, that's about 20-ish years. So what do you have to do? Do you have to replace the entire side of the building? Like after that, like what's next? But I can only imagine what the technology will be like in 20 years.
I couldn't do that math in my head, so I'll go with 20 years. That sounds right.
Ish.
Ish. So, all right, really quickly before we get out of here, I do want to put the link on here. Mitchell put the link to this from Innovate on the Net. There's a couple of different areas you can get this, but Samsung, the Samsung Advanced Institute of Technology, has had a breakthrough in OLED technology where they've gotten 10,000 pixels per inch. You have to see this picture to believe it. And it's not for nothing. I just have a certain place in my heart for OLED. It is my favorite display technology. And the quote here is absolutely incredible. Quote unquote, we've taken advantage of the fact that on the nanoscale, light can flow around objects like water. All right, that right there, you smart people, take that quote and go have some fun with it. I'm not smart enough to do it, but I'll be very curious to see what people come up with from that. So yeah, me and Dawn Mead are the last two AV people that like OLED. So it's her and me on the hill. So all right, y'all. Thank you so much, Mr. Craig McCormick. Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.
How do people get a hold of you or Commercial Integrator?
They can reach me on Twitter at Craig McCormick. And I want to promote that, like you said, the Total Tech Summit is coming up in December. And I encourage people to apply at totaltechsummit.com/apply.
All right, very good. Check that out. Kate, very good to see you virtually, although we got to hang out in Chicago and it was a fun time. Kate Calderon, how do people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at TastefullyKate, or you can shoot me an email at kate@katecalderon.com.
All right, very good. Mr. Grimes, good to see you as always, sir.
Good to see you all too. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Absolutely. How do people connect with you if they are so inclined?
You can DM me on Twitter. That's probably the best way to reach me at bgrimesdc. I believe that's right. Craig, look that up.
I believe that's right too.
That's it.
Okay.
You keep saying that, and I keep questioning it, and I don't check it before you get on here. So, yeah, B Grimes DC sounds right. And if it's not, blame, tell that person you're sorry for DM.
That looks right.
That is right. All right, very good. And last but not least, Erica Williams. Thank you, ma'am, as always.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
How do people get a hold of you?
You can find me on Twitter at HaircutFW, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Erica Williams with the bright orange shirt. And don't forget to check out hendersonengineers.com and make sure that you vote.
Yes, absolutely. And if you're not following Erica, you need to do so. So the rest of the three of them too, but go follow Erica. And yes, vote. We're recording this on Friday, October 30th. As the time of this recording, you have about 28 hours in the U.S. to vote. I do care, but I don't care who you vote for. My favorite quote, at least from American history, is I may not agree with what you have, with what you say, but I will fight to the death your right to say it. Part of saying that is voting. So if you need a ride, call me. I don't care if you're not in St. Louis. I'll find you a ride to go vote. So go make your voice be heard. So for us, for AVNation, don't follow me on the Twitters. Matter of fact, follow the rest of these four and don't follow me. Because at this point in the season, I am probably still cheering for the Bears. But go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others, including our other weekly that looks at the residential side of the AV industry. Also, while you're there, check out our supporter section. These are folks who help us financially, help us bring you AVWeek and ResiWeek. Two things of note about the website. Number one, by the time this posts, God help me if it's not, our first ever buying guide will have been posted. We call it the AV Tech Bible because that's what my marketing people thought it should be called. And oh my goodness, it is huge. Like 1,500 product listings. So, and Mr. Grimes was very gracious and gave us some of his keen insight. So you can check that out. Hopefully by Monday, November 2nd. Also, while you're there, Craig's got his event in December. We have ours along with Future on December 10th called the AV Network Nation. They're avnetwork.com or avnation.tv. You put them together and you have AVN too. So you can check that out as well. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.